61Ts. These look pretty nice, but I don't know who these are for. Like the 61T is solid, the bass is good, you get a good amount of impact, and it's pretty enjoyable. Like for most people, it's gonna be enough bass. And you know, the attack and the decay is quick. The bass doesn't linger as long as the DaVinci's as well, but it's also not as hard hitting, and you know, it's not as fun as the DaVinci's. The bass doesn't go as deep, and the no way isn't as powerful. Like you get the impact, but you don't hear much of the small nuances like when the driver snaps back after it hits. The best way to describe the bass that it's a bit smoothed out, like it's quick and punchy, but in terms of overall like texture, it's kind of just average in terms of like the quality, and there is a bit of BA timbre. Now the overall sound is slightly warm leaning, and the vocals are very laid back, and you know, there is some issues with the vocals, but we'll talk about that later. But the treble overall is pretty good for the price. It's not the smoothest, it's not the sparkliest, but it does the job. You get enough of the treble, and you do get a taste of the air. Overall technicalities are okay as well if you compare it to some of the value champs like the Supernova, the Super Mix 4, the Chopin. Those are going to be more technical than the 61Ts, and you know, they would be the better pick if you wanted like a cleaner sound, or even the Dynaquattro in this scenario would be better, but more on that later. Okay, vocals. Let's start with the positives first. They're very smooth and laid back. You're not gonna find them to be like fatiguing because there is a cut in the like 3 to 6K region, making the overall presentation feel pushed back and you know, not as forward, not as like in your face. However, the vocals are a bit warm because of the low end boost. More specifically, the bass is, you know, is more forward than the vocals because it is like bass over vocals. If you look at the graph, that combined with the cut at 3 to 6K makes, you know, the voices sound a bit buried in the tracks, like a bit too busy. Like on busier tracks, they get a bit too overwhelmed, especially the female vocals. It's very noticeable. They sound more congested, it lacks extension, lacking in power, and just not very natural sounding in general when it comes to the female vocals especially. Male vocals are okay, they're a bit warmer, but overall like it's not as bad as the female vocals. Now you can fix this a little by using a wide bore. I'm using the wide Senkai tips right now, and they do help make the 61T's vocal, you know, feel less buried and less congested, but the issues with the extension, the detail, and like just like the power still remains. You're not gonna change that, but it does help a bit if you use wider tips. Best case scenario, you get punchy, smooth bass with, you know, laid back vocals and good treble extension with some BA timbre, which, you know, sounds okay on paper, but who is this set really for? It's not an all-rounder because it is a little bit too warm and the vocals are a bit lacking to be an all-rounder. I thought it would be good for K-pop because of the 3 to 6K cut, but the female vocals, again, just don't sound that great. They don't sound extended. It feels a little bit like stuck, and it's not the smoothest either when it comes to more energetic genres. And if we're talking about rock or hip-hop, it's also not the best because although the low end is pretty punchy and decently forward, like the impact is there, again, the overall texture is not the best at around this price. The DaVinci's are a little bit better, and then it is a little bit smoothed out in the final extension of like the bass notes, especially when it snaps back. You don't hear a lot of the details, and if you just want to like good bass, like a lot of it, the Strinkos would be the better pick still. Or you know, if you wanted a good amount of bass without going to Strinko levels, then you have the DaVinci's, right? The slam is more engaging, it's more powerful, like the rhythmic section is better textured, and the vocals also pop out a bit more. They're more natural, and the DaVinci's are overall just like the better pick when it comes to hip hop and rock. On the other hand, if you wanted a clean set for indie classical instrumentals, the Dynaquattro is only $40 more, and it's much better for that in my opinion. And then you also got the Magic 1 if you wanted a warm signature. It's also better at that. It has the vocals to back it up as well, and it's half the price of the 61Ts. And then if you wanted something like more relaxing, which is what I think the 61T is trying to go for, you have the Explorer, you know, which is better tuned in my opinion, and it's more immersive, scales better, and it's also half its price. So there's just a lot of options out there right now, and even though the 61T is a decent IEM, the problem is that they don't stand out enough to really excel in, you know, the context that I've tested at least. Like, it's not a value monster, right? It's not a niche set because it doesn't know what niche it's trying to go for necessarily, and it's not a jack of all trades either because of the vocals and being a little bit warm. So I don't know, man. If I'm really reaching, if you're okay with EQing the 61T, it does become a more, resolving and smoother version of the CKLVX or the pull-out. If you EQ down the bass, it does sound pretty similar to the pull-out and the CKLVX, but just a little bit more resolving. But that is with EQ, and it does cost a little bit more. So I don't know. You can get the CKLVX and the pull-up for like $130 on sale. But the Dynaquattro, on the other hand, is in my opinion better than the 61Ts. It's a very well-tuned, balanced sound signature and pretty coherent given the fact that it's using 4 dynamic drivers. Usually there's like it lags behind, there's some like disjointment, but it's pretty coherent, and timbre-wise, it's pretty natural. In terms of clarity, resolution, the Dynaquattro is a bump over the DaVincis and the 61Ts. The bass especially feels like more resolving. Like I can hear the details from the entrails, like when it snaps back better. You just hear like the clarity is a little bit better on the Dynaquattros. In terms of like impact and power, the DaVinci is still going to be the best there. It just feels the heaviest and most authoritative. And then after the DaVinci, impact wise, it would be like a tie between the Dynaquattro and the 61Ts, with the differences being that the bass notes on the Dyna is better textured and don't feel as smoothed out. The Dyna is also the least forward when it comes to the bass presentation. Both the DaVinci and the 61T has a tamer upper mids and treble area, which affects the focus and shifts the focus more onto the low end, which does make the bass feel more forward. Vocal-wise, the Dyna has the best vocals out of the three in my opinion. It cuts through the low end nicely, whereas both the DaVinci and the 61T feels less detailed and a little bit more colored, especially on the 61Ts. The 61Ts are just like noticeably more recessed when you compare them to the Dynaquattros. Now, some people might find the 3K area to be a bit too much on the Dyna because it does follow a more traditional Harman upper mids approach. I think it's fine because Binary did cut the 5 to 6K region where most of the sibilants occurs. It's not a high volume set by any means, but if you're listening to under like 75, 80 dBs, you're gonna be fine. Although the Dyna does need a good amount of power, more than the other two. At low gain, I was like near max on my Topping G5, which is a very capable amp like power wise. So just a heads up, you're gonna need more juice for the Dynaquattros. Another small issue aside from the 3K potentially being too much for some people are the peaks at 8 to 10K and 15 to 20K, which is noticeable on more energetic songs like Butterfly by Luna or Say It by Yurashika. But for the most part, it's pretty enjoyable for most of the K-pop and J-pop stuff that I tested. Like if you don't listen loud, you're gonna be fine, but I wouldn't say like it's the smoothest at its price range. Both the Nova and the Supermix 4 are smoother, as well as the Hype 2s. There's also some masking of the upper mids detail due to the combination of the big dip at 4K and then the big peak at 8K, which combined shadows the 4 to 8K region, pushing it back more and just being less audible. So electric guitars and consonants can lack the bite that some people are looking for. But all in all, the Dynaquattro is the cleanest and the most balanced out of the three. It's straight up like a better version of the 61T in my opinion. And then you also got the DaVinci if you want deeper bass, heavier slam, or the Distincos if you even want like more slam than the DaVincis. It's not like the 61T is bad or anything, but it's just in a bad spot given the competition, especially the Dynaquattro. And then you also have all the other stuff at around its price range and below as well. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it for now. More info on Project J coming up. Stay tuned for that. But thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see everyone soon. Shout out to Jeff Young, Rorax Cat, Dom Q, Star Buccaneers, This Call Scaldist, B Urak, Mystic Spoon Attack, Oh Really, Walker Standard, User, Ernest, Contain Guava Juice Gains, Patrick, Belcel Kel, Rosar the Kelf, Paulie J, Mr. Gorillas, Antoristo, Gis Seng Young, Tamat Pa Frache, Ed Dunlap, Christopher Jackson, Name, Henry Claudia, Son of a Horse, 777ZK, Asher, and Ben Thompson. Thank you guys so much for the support, and I'll see everyone in the next one.